The human research station floated in orbit above a quiet moon, its metal surface glinting in the pale light of the distant sun. To most eyes, it looked like an ordinary outpost, functional, plain, and small compared to the great fleets that moved through the stars. But to the humans who worked inside, this station was a place of pride. It was proof that their young species could stand among the stars, not as passengers of other empires, but as builders of their own future. Inside the station, the atmosphere was busy but calm. Engineers checked systems, researchers carried data pads from one room to another, and pilots kept watch on the long screens that monitored the silent space around them. Among them was a young engineer named Ilara. She was not a captain or a famous scientist, just a quiet worker who enjoyed building things and solving problems others called too complex. Ilara had grown up with stories of alien greatness. The Zereth. Dominion, rulers of hundreds of worlds, were known as strict overseers of galactic law. Their starships were enormous, their rules unbending, and their inspections feared by many. Humans were still newcomers to the interstellar community, and the Dominion often reminded them of that fact. On this day, whispers moved through the station like a cold wind. The Dominion inspectors were coming. The news carried weight. Inspections were never friendly visits. They were tests. The Zereth wanted to see if humans were following protocols, if their work was acceptable, and if their methods matched Dominion standards. A failure could mean heavy restrictions, or worse, the removal of human independence in research. Ilara tried to steady her nerves as she stood by the control panels in the engineering bay. She told herself the same thing she always did when nervous. Machines are honest. If something was broken, she could fix it. If something was unstable, she could stabilize it. Unlike politics and pride, machines always gave clear answers. The seer alarm announcing the arrival of a Dominion ship echoed through the station. Everyone froze for a brief moment. Then, with practiced order, the human crew moved to their stations. Screens showed a massive ship sliding into orbit, its hull sharp and black, its insignia glowing in pale blue. Compared to the small human station, it looked like a giant shadow ready to swallow them whole. The docking sequence was quick. Heavy footsteps echoed through the airlock as armored figures entered. At their front walked Commander Velcor, tall and imposing. His skin carried the silver patterns of his species, and his uniform bore the clear mark of authority. Behind him followed a group of Dominion inspectors, each carrying scanners and tablets to record their findings. The humans greeted them with respect, though there was no warmth in the air. The Dominion did not believe in warm greetings. Commander Velcor's gaze moved slowly across the room, sharp and measuring. To him, humans were a young race, untested and impulsive. The Dominion believed that without strict oversight, humanity's creativity would turn into recklessness. Velcor's duty was to ensure that order remained, and order meant reminding humans of their place. "Proceed with inspection," he commanded in a cold voice. The inspectors began their work, moving from system to system. They checked oxygen, processors, fuel reserves, communication relays, and safety protocols. Every number was written down, every reading compared to Dominion standards. The humans stood quietly nearby, waiting to be called on, their hearts steady but heavy. Ilara's turn came when the team reached the engineering bay. She stood ready beside her console, her hands folded in front of her. The bay was filled with machinery she had spent months repairing and improving. Some of the systems were designed by humans alone, adjusted to fit their smaller station and their limited resources. Velcor's sharp eyes noticed this at once. "These modifications," he said, his tone flat, "they do not match Dominion protocols." Ilara's voice was calm as she answered, "They are within safety margins, Commander. We adapted the systems for efficiency. The Dominion design uses more energy than we can spare here, so I made changes." There was no pride in her tone, just explanation. But Velcor's silver eyes narrowed. To him, her words were not practical, they were defiance. "Efficiency is not the concern of a young species," he said. "Compliance is. The human crew, exchanged uneasy looks, but Alara did not lower her gaze. She believed in her work, and machines, as always, told the truth. She stepped forward and pointed to one of the consoles. This design allows the system to recycle excess energy. It reduces waste and increases stability. If you like, I can demonstrate. For a moment, silence filled the room. The Dominion inspectors glanced at one another, surprised by her steady tone. Most humans avoided speaking too directly to Dominion commanders, but Alara spoke as though she were explaining to another engineer, not to an authority figure. Valkor's jaw tightened. He had seen many species bend quickly under Dominion rule, but this young human stood with quiet confidence, offering her work as proof rather than bowing to his words. "Proceed," he said at last, his voice carrying both command and warning. Alara moved to the console and activated her design. The systems hummed softly, lights glowing in patterns that showed energy shifting smoothly between circuits. A screen displayed the measurements: lower energy use, higher stability. To any engineer, the numbers were clear. Her design worked. One of the Dominion inspectors frowned, whispering to a colleague. They could not deny the data. It was more efficient than the Dominion's own design. Valkor's expression darkened. He saw not a technical demonstration but a challenge. "This," he said slowly, "is not Dominion procedure. You will explain why you believe your design superior." Alara hesitated for the briefest second. She was not trying to be superior. She was simply showing truth. "It is not about superior, Commander. It is about what works best with the resources we have. Every system should fit the environment it serves." Her words were simple, but they carried weight. The human crew felt a quiet spark of pride, though they hid it behind straight faces. Valkor, however, saw only boldness. To him, humans were supposed to obey, not lecture. His silver eyes grew colder, and the air around the engineering bay felt heavier. The inspection moved on, but tension lingered like a shadow. Every step the Dominion took through the station carried judgment, and every human breath felt measured. Yet, within that pressure, something had begun to shift. The inspectors had seen numbers that spoke louder than rules, and Alara, quiet and steady, had shown that humans were not afraid to think differently. As the first day of inspection drew to a close, the crew gathered in silence, each carrying their own thoughts. The Dominion ship still loomed outside, and Commander Valkor's sharp gaze still haunted the halls. But in the heart of the engineering bay, Alara stood by her console, running one last check on her systems. Machines were honest, she reminded herself again. And honesty had a way of shining through, even in the cold shadow of the Dominion. The stage was set, though none of them yet knew it. The next day, when the inspection continued, one simple act of arrogance would change everything, and prove to the galaxy that humans were not so easily dismissed. The morning light filtered through the station's reinforced windows, painting long streaks across the polished floor. The humans moved with quiet precision, their minds already racing with calculations, adjustments, and checks. Today was the continuation of the Dominion inspection, and though no one spoke of fear, a tension lingered in the air. Alara arrived in the engineering bay, her uniform neat and her hair tied back in a practical braid. Machines hummed softly as she began running diagnostic scans, checking energy flows, pressure readings, and life support systems. Every detail mattered. A small oversight could trigger questions, delays, or worse. The Dominion inspectors entered, shortly after. Commander Valkor led them, his presence filling the room like a shadow. Behind him, a pair of inspectors carried scanning devices, quietly noting every reading and marking each human movement with cold precision. Valkor's gaze fell immediately on Alara. He remembered her calmness from yesterday, her confidence in explaining systems that humans were supposed to only barely understand. A flicker of annoyance crossed his silver-patterned skin. "You are the one demonstrating yesterday," Valkor said, his voice sharp. "You believe your design exceeds Dominion standards?" Alara straightened, her expression neutral. "I believe it works best for the station, Commander, that is all. Valkor's eyes narrowed. That is not an answer. Dominion protocol requires compliance, not discussion. Ilara's hands rested on the console. She did not step back, did not bow, did not lower her gaze. Her calm defiance seemed almost human. It irritated the commander more than words. The inspection began in earnest. Valkor moved from station to station, tapping consoles and pointing at charts. Every movement carried judgment, and every sound of his footsteps echoed like a drum in the quiet bay. Ilara followed, explaining each system as clearly as she could. The other humans stayed nearby, ready to assist, their eyes flicking between Valkor and Ilara. Then it happened. Ilara pointed to a control panel she had recently upgraded. This panel now regulates energy flow automatically. It prevents overloads, even when multiple systems are running at peak efficiency. Valkor leaned over, scanning the readouts with a frown. I see redundancy where it is not needed. This is inefficient. Ilara began to explain, using simple diagrams on the console screen, showing how the system's design reduced strain and improved overall performance. If a circuit fails, the energy is rerouted instantly. This prevents downtime and protects the station. Valkor's temper flared. You speak too much, he barked. He reached out abruptly and shoved her aside, intending to tap the console himself and demonstrate what he called the proper Dominion method. The room froze. Ilara stumbled, barely keeping her balance, her hand brushing against a console. Crew members gasped quietly. None had ever seen a human shoved by a Dominion officer and remained so composed. Ilara straightened immediately. Her expression was calm, almost neutral, but her eyes shone with determination. She did not retreat. She did not argue. She simply turned to the console and placed her hands over the panel controls. The moment Valkor's fingers touched the console, alarms blared. Red lights flashed, and a low siren echoed throughout the bay. The screen displayed a cascade of warnings. Energy reroute activated. Manual override blocked. Safety protocol engaged. Valkor froze. He had expected the humans to be startled, compliant, or confused. Instead, they were composed, reacting to his shove with calm precision. Ilara spoke, her voice steady. Commander, the system detects an unauthorized manual override. It prevents interference to avoid a cascade failure. Please step back. Valkor's eyes widened. His hands moved quickly across the controls, trying to regain command. But every attempt only triggered more alarms. Each error he caused was caught and corrected automatically by Ilara's safeguards. The other humans moved around, calmly checking displays, resetting minor alerts and following Ilara's instructions. No panic, no chaos, just precise, confident teamwork. Valkor's face darkened. What is this? He demanded. Ilara turned slightly, pointing to the display. This is what happens when a system is designed to protect itself. The failsafe responds faster than any human or alien can react manually. It is not defiance. It is protection. The alarms continued for a moment, a chaotic symphony that reflected Valkor's mounting frustration. Within 5 minutes, he had lost control completely. The inspectors behind him stared, scribbling notes, their earlier disdain now mixed with disbelief. Humans, your methods, they are unlike anything in the Dominion, one inspector whispered, barely audible. Ilara did not respond. She focused on the system, her hands moving over the controls as she guided the flow of energy. The panels glowed softly, lights shifting from red to green as alarms subsided. The system had stabilized. Valkor stepped back, breathing sharply. He realized that in those 5 minutes, the humans had not only contained the problem, but had done so with an efficiency that even the Dominion could not match. You relied on self-correcting systems, he said slowly, almost in awe. Ilara nodded. Yes, Commander. The system was designed to anticipate unexpected interference. That includes accidental mistakes or unapproved actions. It is why we test everything thoroughly. Valkor's hands trembled slightly as he looked at the display. He had thought that force, intimidation, or sheer authority would control this species. Instead, he had triggered a demonstration of human ingenuity he did not understand. The room was quiet now, save for the hum of machinery. The Dominion inspectors exchanged glances. One of them murmured, "Perhaps we have underestimated them." Ilara took a step forward, checking minor adjustments. Her voice was soft but firm. "The system is stable. All functions are normal. Energy levels are within safe limits." Valcor said nothing. He simply stared, realizing that humans had a quality his species did not: the ability to adapt instantly, to use creativity and intuition in ways rigid procedures could never predict. For a moment, the inspection felt reversed. Instead of humans being tested, it was the aliens who were learning. They watched as the crew continued their work, moving with quiet confidence, responding to every alert, every minor error, without panic. Valcor's mind raced. He had spent decades enforcing Dominion rules, ensuring that order was absolute. And yet here was a young human, who had not only survived a shove but had maintained perfect control of a system he himself could not master. The silence stretched. Finally, Valcor straightened, his posture rigid but his mind alive with a reluctant respect. "This is most unusual," he said. Ilara glanced at him briefly. Her tone remained calm. "It is normal for us. We adapt. We anticipate. That is how humans survive and thrive." Valcor's silver eyes flicked across the room, noting the other crew members' efficient work. They moved seamlessly, each understanding their role and the systems they managed, responding to Ilara's guidance without hesitation. The Dominion inspectors took careful notes, their expressions betraying curiosity, perhaps even admiration. They had come expecting to find flaws, inefficiencies, and excuses. Instead, they had witnessed a species that could turn potential disaster into stability, with logic, calm, and ingenuity. The rest of the day passed in tense observation. Valcor remained present, watching closely but no longer interfering. Every human action, every choice, every adjustment proved that they were more than capable of managing their station. By the time the inspection concluded for the day, the humans had demonstrated their resilience. Ilara's systems had survived interference, misuse, and error, all without harm or collapse. The Dominion inspectors left with a new understanding. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but also remarkably capable. Valcor lingered near the exit. He had thought the shove would intimidate, would show dominance. Instead, it had revealed something extraordinary. Humans did not rely solely on rules or force. They relied on their minds, their intuition, and their ability to innovate under pressure. As the massive Dominion ship undocked and drifted away from the station, the human crew let out quiet sighs of relief. They had survived the first day of inspection, but more importantly, they had demonstrated a strength that no alien could fully anticipate. Ilara returned to her console, checking minor systems, her calm focus unbroken. Machines were honest, she reminded herself. And the truth of human ingenuity had just shown itself in full force. For Valcor, it was a lesson he would not soon forget. For the humans, it was the beginning of something greater, a proof that even in the shadow of the most powerful empire in the galaxy, their minds and their courage could shine brighter than fear, authority, or expectation. The station was quiet except for the hum of machinery and the faint echo of Dominion footsteps. It was still morning, but the energy in the engineering bay was tense, like the air before a storm. Ilara stood near her console, her hands moving across the panels as she ran final checks. The previous day's inspection had already shaken Commander Valcor, and she knew today would test her patience and the crew's skill even more. Valcor entered the bay, flanked by the Dominion inspectors. His silver-patterned skin shimmered, slightly under the artificial lights, his eyes sharp as they swept across the room. The shove yesterday had done more than provoke Ilara. It had also revealed the extraordinary design she had built. Valcor had spent hours reviewing reports, and every note confirmed what he feared. Humans were clever in ways the Dominion could not anticipate. "You will demonstrate your systems again," Valcor said, his voice steady but colder than usual. Ilara nodded. She didn't flinch. Of course, Commander. The systems are stable and fully operational. I will guide you through the process. The Dominion inspectors looked skeptical. They had been trained to expect panic, errors, or at least hesitation from younger species. Humans rarely surprised them. But as the demonstration began, it quickly became clear that these humans were not ordinary. Ilara started with the energy distribution panel. Lights blinked rhythmically as circuits activated and rerouted power. Sensors measured each adjustment with precision, showing real-time feedback. This system, she explained, automatically detects fluctuations and redistributes energy to maintain stability. If a circuit fails or is disrupted, the energy flow is instantly rerouted to prevent failure. Valcor frowned. Redundant circuits are unnecessary. Dominion designs do not require this level of compensation. Perhaps for your stations, Ilara said calmly, but ours are smaller, with fewer resources. Redundancy prevents catastrophic failure in a limited environment. It also saves time and effort when multiple systems run simultaneously. Valcor's fingers hovered over the console. He wanted to demonstrate proper control, to show the humans that authority mattered more than design. Without warning, he pressed a sequence of buttons to override the system manually. Alarms blared immediately. Red lights flashed across the room. A loud siren echoed as panels displayed warnings. Energy reroute active. Manual override detected. Safety protocol engaged. Dio. Dominion inspectors froze. They had never seen an override backfire so completely. Valcor's face grew tense. His authority was being tested not by debate or challenge, but by a system designed with foresight and precision. Ilara did not panic. She calmly moved from one panel to another, checking readings, resetting minor triggers, and guiding the energy flow with deliberate movements. "Commander," she said, her voice even, "the system is responding to an unauthorized manual override. It is stabilizing automatically. Please step back." Valcor's attempts to regain control only worsened the situation. Every command he entered triggered another safeguard. Lights flickered, circuits shifted, and alarms grew louder. Yet the humans moved with effortless coordination, each one following the procedures Ilara had designed and practiced. One inspector whispered to another, barely audible, "They are extraordinary." "Yes," came the soft reply. "Their systems, they anticipate errors we cannot even imagine." For 5 minutes, chaos ruled the bay. Panels glowed red, alarms echoed, and Valcor's frustration rose like heat in the air. Every attempt he made to assert control was countered by human ingenuity. The crew moved like a single organism, correcting errors, redistributing energy, and preventing any system from failing completely. Ilara's calm presence was the anchor. She directed the crew with short, precise instructions. "Check the pressure. Lines. Adjust the energy flow here. Reset the auxiliary circuits. Maintain system stability." It was not just technical skill, it was leadership, strategy, and intuition combined. The Dominion inspectors watched in disbelief as the humans turned potential disaster into controlled efficiency. Valcor realized he was outmatched, not because of strength or size, but because of adaptability. The humans anticipated problems before they occurred, reacted instantly to unexpected errors, and corrected them without hesitation. Their minds operated in ways his species did not understand. Finally, the alarms subsided. Red lights turned green, sirens fell silent, and the display showed all systems functioning normally. The 5 minutes of chaos had ended, and the humans were victorious, not by force but by intellect and calm precision. Valcor stepped back, breathing heavily. He looked at Ilara, who was now calmly reviewing the readings. Her hands moved over the console, checking for minor adjustments, her focus unbroken. "You," Valcor began, his voice low. "Your species. It is unlike any I have encountered." Ilara glanced up. Her eyes met his, steady and composed. "We adapt. We anticipate. That is how humans survive, Commander. Valkor's jaw tightened. He had expected obedience, mistakes, and panic. Instead, he had witnessed controlled brilliance, a system working flawlessly under pressure, guided by humans who never faltered. His pride was bruised, his authority questioned, not by defiance but by simple, effective human ingenuity. The other Dominion inspectors scribbled notes furiously, their expressions a mix of disbelief and awe. One whispered again, "They are capable, beyond expectation." "Yes," another murmured. "They think differently, faster, smarter." The human crew gathered around Alara, each one checking the systems they had built and maintained. No one celebrated, no one argued. They simply ensured that everything continued to function perfectly. That calm, measured response impressed even Valkor. He realized something important. The humans were not just surviving, they were thriving. They did not rely solely on rules, hierarchy, or force. They relied on reasoning, intuition, teamwork, and creativity, the very traits that made them unpredictable and powerful. Valkor's mind raced as he recalled the shove. It had been meant to demonstrate authority, to humble the young engineer. Instead, it had revealed the strength of humanity in full. A simple act of aggression had become a lesson in ingenuity, teamwork, and resilience. The Dominion inspectors took careful note, whispering among themselves. They had come to judge a species, to document weaknesses, and perhaps even recommend restrictions. But now the record would reflect something different. Humans were clever, adaptable, and capable of managing systems far beyond what the Dominion expected. Alara finished her checks and stepped back from the console. Her calm voice filled the room. "Systems are stable. All readings are within safe limits. No further intervention is necessary." Valkor looked around the room, noting the efficiency of the human crew. Their teamwork, focus, and composure were remarkable. Every member followed instructions perfectly, corrected minor errors without hesitation, and maintained the integrity of the station. For a moment, the room was silent, except for the soft hum of machinery. Valkor, the proud and disciplined commander, had no words. His pride had been challenged not by force but by intelligence and calm precision. Finally he spoke, his voice measured but laced with reluctant respect. "This demonstration, Cutter, proves something unusual. Humans, you are more capable than I believed." Alara nodded, her expression still calm. "We do what we must, Commander. That is all." The Dominion inspectors quietly recorded every observation. Valkor allowed them to continue their work, though he stayed close, reflecting on what he had just witnessed. For the first time in his career, a young species had not only survived a direct test, but had outperformed expectations under pressure. Humans continued their duties, making minor adjustments, checking systems, and maintaining order. There was no celebration, no boastfulness, only calm efficiency and dedication. Yet their actions had spoken louder than words. The demonstration was clear. Humans were special, not because they were strong or numerous, but because they could think, adapt, and respond in ways no other species could. Valkor finally stepped back and allowed the inspection to proceed without interference. He had learned a lesson he could not unlearn. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but their unpredictability came from intelligence, creativity, and courage. Traits that no rules, protocols, or authority could easily suppress. As the inspection ended for the day, the crew exhaled quietly. They had survived the chaos, proven their capability, and remained composed throughout. Alara returned to her console, checking minor systems, her focus unbroken. Machines were honest, she reminded herself, and the truth of human ingenuity had just shone through. Outside the station, the Dominion ship drifted silently in orbit. Valkor's eyes lingered on the humans' work, reflecting on the events of the past 5 minutes. He had arrived intending to assert authority, to remind humans of their place. Instead, he had witnessed something extraordinary, and deep down, He knew that the galaxy might have underestimated humanity in ways even the Dominion could not yet measure. The stage was set for what would come next. Humans had proven their strength under pressure, and the galaxy, unknowingly, was about to see just how extraordinary they truly were. The engineering bay was quiet now, the hum of machinery filling the space like a gentle heartbeat. The Dominion inspectors moved carefully among the consoles, scanning, recording, and whispering among themselves. The morning's chaos had passed, yet its impact lingered like an electric charge. Commander Valkor remained near the center, his arms folded and his gaze sharp, trying to understand what he had witnessed. Ilara stood at her console, her hands steady as she ran final checks. Despite the alarms, the flashing lights, and the 5 minutes of total confusion, the station had remained stable. Energy levels were balanced, circuits were intact, and every system operated at peak efficiency. The humans had maintained control, but more importantly, they had demonstrated something far greater than mechanical skill. They had shown the essence of human ingenuity. Valkor's eyes flicked to her, searching for a weakness, a flaw, something he could use to claim authority. But there was nothing. She was calm, focused, and completely in command. He had expected her to make mistakes, to panic, or to rely on others for guidance. Instead, she had anticipated problems before they arose and corrected them with precision and logic. "You designed these systems yourself?" he asked, his voice cautious. Ilara nodded. "Yes, Commander. Every component, every circuit, every safeguard. They were designed to function under the conditions we face here: limited resources, unpredictable anomalies, and potential interference. All the redundancies are intentional." Valkor's silver-patterned skin shimmered faintly, a sign of his agitation and curiosity. He had been trained to deal with species that relied on rules and authority, not creativity. Humans, however, operated differently. They were unpredictable, adaptive, and capable of seeing solutions where no standard protocol existed. One of the Dominion inspectors spoke quietly. "These systems, they are not just efficient, they anticipate problems before they occur. This is remarkable." "Yes," another agreed. "They are designing with foresight, creativity, and understanding. Not merely following instructions, this is unlike anything in Dominion records." Ilara listened without interruption. Her focus was not on impressing the Dominion, but on ensuring the station remained stable. She moved from panel to panel, adjusting, minor calibrations, testing circuits, and verifying the integrity of every system. Every action was precise, every decision deliberate. Commander Valkor approached her console, peering at the readouts. "Explain the fail-safe protocol," he demanded. His tone was sharp, but there was curiosity hidden beneath his command. Ilara's voice remained calm. "The fail-safe is designed to prevent catastrophic failure. If a manual override or unplanned interference occurs, the system automatically reroutes energy and isolates circuits. It ensures that no single action, human or alien, can destabilize the station. It also provides real-time feedback, allowing operators to respond immediately to any anomalies." Valkor frowned. "And it responded to my interference, without human input?" Ilara nodded. "Yes, it is designed to anticipate errors faster than any operator can react. That is why the system remained stable despite the alarms. It is not defiance. It is protection." The Dominion inspectors exchanged looks of awe. They had come expecting to find faults, inefficiencies, and excuses. Instead, they were witnessing something revolutionary. Humans were not merely surviving. They were creating systems that combined logic, foresight, and adaptability. Valkor's pride was wounded, but his mind was alive with thought. He had always believed that authority, discipline, and strict adherence to protocol ensured success. Yet here, in a small human station, he had seen a species operate without fear, without rigid rules, and still achieve flawless results. One inspector whispered, They think differently. Faster, more adaptable. Their methods, they could surpass Dominion standards if properly studied." "Yes," another replied. "Their ingenuity is remarkable. Perhaps we have underestimated them. Ilara continued her work, checking minor components and confirming readings. She was aware of the Dominion's attention, but she did not falter. Her calm confidence only emphasized the contrast between human adaptability and Dominion rigidity. Valcor finally stepped closer, his gaze intent. This system, these safeguards, they are beyond what I have ever seen in a young species. How did you conceive of them? Ilara paused briefly. I studied biological systems, Commander. Patterns in nature, networks in ecosystems, and the way living organisms self-regulate inspired the design. The system learns from the environment, adapts, and responds. It is not magic. It is observation, logic, and practical application. The Dominion inspectors gasped softly. Biological inspiration? That was a concept rarely applied outside human engineering. Their civilizations relied on rigid structures, rules, and repetition. Humans, however, combined observation with creativity, allowing them to innovate in ways no Dominion manual could anticipate. Valcor's mind raced. He had always dismissed humans as weak, untested, and impulsive. Yet here they were, demonstrating innovation, leadership, and resilience under extreme pressure. The 5 minutes of chaos yesterday had not been a failure. It had been a demonstration of human potential. Ilara gestured toward the energy distribution console. If you examine the system carefully, you will see that every component is designed to communicate with the others. Redundancy ensures stability, and self-correcting algorithms maintain function even when unexpected events occur. It allows humans to operate with confidence, knowing that the system protects them and their work. Valcor's silver eyes scanned the display. He had been trained to control, to command, and to dominate. Yet in this small station, control had shifted. The humans had shown that intelligence, adaptability, and calm foresight could achieve results that authority alone never could. One Dominion inspector muttered, "Perhaps we have judged them too harshly. Their capacity to innovate, it is extraordinary." "Yes," Valcor agreed reluctantly. "Extraordinary and troubling," Ilara continued, unaware of the growing respect hidden in the eyes of the Dominion. Her focus remained on the station, her voice calm and clear. "We build systems to function in environments that are unpredictable, Commander. That is why every safeguard, every fail-safe, and every redundancy is intentional. It is not about following orders. It is about anticipating what could happen and being ready for it." Valcor's jaw tightened. He realized something important. The human strength was not in physical power, size, or numbers. It was in their minds, their ability to adapt, to think creatively, and to respond to unexpected challenges faster than any rigid protocol could manage. The Dominion inspectors wrote notes quickly, their expressions a mixture of awe and disbelief. They had expected to find inefficiency, failure, and mistakes. Instead, they had seen humans demonstrating intelligence, coordination, and leadership that rivaled or even exceeded Dominion expectations. Ilara's team worked quietly alongside her, checking systems, confirming calibrations, and ensuring stability. Their calm efficiency impressed Valcor more than any demonstration could. Each human moved with purpose, each action precise, each decision deliberate. They were not only skilled, they were exceptional. Valcor's silver-patterned skin shimmered faintly, a sign of his conflicting emotions. Authority told him to demand obedience, to assert dominance, and to prove humans were weak. But reason, observation, and the evidence before him told a different story. Humans were extraordinary, capable, and independent. Finally, Ilara stepped back from the main console, her hands resting lightly on the surface. She looked at Valcor calmly. "The systems are stable, Commander. All energy flows are balanced, all circuits are functioning within parameters, and no further intervention is necessary." Valcor studied her for a long moment. He had come, expecting defiance or failure. Instead, he had witnessed brilliance, calm under pressure, and ingenuity beyond his understanding. His pride was bruised, but his respect had grown. The Dominion inspectors moved closer, observing the human crew in action. They whispered among themselves, noting the coordination, the quick problem-solving, and the creativity evident in every action. Humans, they realized, were not ordinary. They were a species that combined intellect, innovation, and resilience in ways few others could match. Valkor's gaze softened slightly, though his posture remained commanding. "You have shown us a new way of thinking. Humans, your ingenuity, but is remarkable." Ilara nodded, her voice calm. "We do what we must, Commander, that is all." The Dominion inspectors recorded every detail, careful not to miss a single moment of innovation or skill. Valkor allowed them to continue, though he stayed near, reflecting on what he had just witnessed. Humans had shown adaptability, intelligence, and resilience, traits no rigid protocol or authority could suppress. As the inspection concluded for the day, the crew exhaled quietly. They had survived, yes, but more importantly, they had proven the core truth of humanity. Their strength came not from force or numbers, but from thinking, observing, and innovating. Ilara returned to her console, running minor checks with calm precision. Machines were honest, she reminded herself, and their truth had just revealed the extraordinary nature of human ingenuity. Commander Valkor watched silently, understanding that the galaxy might have undone their potential could not. The Dominion ship had left orbit, sliding silently into the cold black of space. The human crew finally allowed themselves to breathe normally, though their faces remained composed. They had survived the inspection. More importantly, they had proven something far greater, that humans were capable, adaptable, and inventive beyond what the Dominion had ever expected. Ilara stood at the center of the engineering bay, her hands resting lightly on the console. Her mind was calm, even as her thoughts reflected on the events of the past 2 days. The shove, the alarms, the chaos, it had all tested her, and yet the station had remained stable. The humans had turned a challenge into a demonstration of their skill, and she could see the pride quietly reflected in the eyes of her teammates. Commander Valkor, despite leaving orbit, had left a lingering presence in the station. The human crew could still feel the weight of his observation, the sharpness of his gaze, and the quiet tension of judgment. But there was also something else, something unexpected. Respect. The Dominion had witnessed human ingenuity, and it had left its mark. The crew gathered in a small common area, reviewing systems and running final checks before the next scheduled cycle. Conversations were low, focused, and professional. Yet under the calm exterior, there was a shared sense of achievement. They had shown the galaxy, at least to the Dominion, that humanity was not just surviving, it was thriving. One engineer, leaning over a datapad, whispered to a colleague, "I never thought we'd pull that off. The systems, they were perfect. Not a single failure." "Yes," the colleague replied. And Ilara, she didn't panic, she stayed calm the whole time. It's like she saw the solution before the problem even happened. Ilara heard the exchange but smiled quietly to herself. Her focus was on the station, the crew, and the machines that spoke in their precise, honest language. She didn't need praise. The results spoke for themselves. Far above them, Valkor's ship traveled through space toward the Dominion Council. He carried detailed reports of the inspection, every measurement, every observation, every note on human ingenuity. The reports would reach the ears of leaders who had long underestimated humanity, and his own pride demanded that he describe the events accurately. The council would read about the 5 minutes of chaos, the alarms, the fail-safes, and the calm precision of the human crew. They would read about how a young engineer, faced with sudden interference, had guided the station through potential disaster with foresight, logic, and composure. Valkor's mind churned as he thought about how to frame the findings. His instinct was to protect the authority of the Dominion, yet he could not deny the truth. Humans were remarkable, capable, and independent in ways that challenged his understanding. Meanwhile, back on the station, the humans continued their work. Minor adjustments were made to improve efficiency, repairs were completed, and systems were tested for stability. The inspection had been intense, but it had also brought them closer as a team. They had witnessed firsthand what humans could achieve under pressure, and the experience had strengthened their confidence. Ilara moved from console to console, checking each system carefully. She paused at the energy distribution panel, reflecting on the fail-safes she had designed. They had worked exactly as intended, protecting the station, maintaining stability, and preventing disaster. The design had succeeded not because of power or force, but because of thought, observation, and adaptation. A communications alert interrupted her thoughts. She glanced at the screen. It was a message from the Dominion Council sent through secure channels. Valkor's report had already reached them. The message was formal, acknowledging the inspection and summarizing the findings. Humans had performed. Well, the systems were stable and the crew had shown remarkable skill and ingenuity. Ilara read the message aloud to the team. The Council acknowledges our performance. They are impressed. There was a moment of silence, then soft murmurs of satisfaction. They had done more than pass an inspection. They had demonstrated humanity's potential to a galaxy that had doubted them. One of the crew, smiling, said, "So they finally see it. Humans are not just capable, we're extraordinary." Ilara nodded, her expression calm but proud. It's not about being extraordinary. It's about understanding, adapting, and thinking ahead. That is how we survive and thrive in space. Valkor's ship continued its journey, carrying the weight of his report. He could not shake the images of the human crew at work, calm, focused, precise, and creative. They had responded to a challenge that would have overwhelmed most species, and they had done so without panic, without hesitation, and without error. For the Dominion Council, the implications were clear. Humans were not a weak or primitive species. They were a species capable of innovation, leadership, and problem-solving under extreme conditions. They could not be dismissed, ignored, or underestimated. Back on the station, life returned to its normal rhythm. Humans went about their duties, maintaining systems, performing research, and exploring new ideas. The inspection had been a test, but it had also been a learning experience. They had discovered their own strength, and in doing so, had set a standard for what humans could achieve. Ilara returned to her favorite console, checking minor systems, ensuring that everything operated within normal parameters. Machines were honest, she reminded herself. They revealed truth without bias, without judgment, and without fear. And the truth she had seen, her crew's skill, their ingenuity, their adaptability, was something that no Dominion authority could overlook. The story of the inspection began to spread quietly through Dominion channels. Other planets, other species, and other inspectors would hear about the humans who had faced authority, chaos, and technical challenges, and had emerged stronger, wiser, and more capable than anyone expected. In the station's common area, the Yao, humans gathered for a brief moment of reflection. No words were needed. Their shared understanding was enough. They had faced the shadow of the most powerful empire in the galaxy and had turned it into an opportunity to demonstrate what it truly meant to be human. Ilara looked around at her team. "This is only the beginning," she said softly. "The galaxy will see more of what humans can do, and we will be ready." The crew nodded. Each one understood the weight of her words. The inspection was over, but the story of human capability had only begun. The Dominion had witnessed it, the Council had noted it, and soon the galaxy would come to recognize that humans were not merely survivors. They were innovators, leaders, and creators. Valkor, aboard his ship, continued to reflect on the events. His pride had been challenged, his expectations had been shattered, and his understanding of humanity had changed forever. He would report accurately, for the truth could not be hidden. Humans were remarkable, adaptable, and capable of greatness. As the stars stretched endlessly outside the station, the humans continued their work. They were calm, focused, and confident, knowing that their ingenuity had left a mark. They had faced pressure, chaos, and authority, and they had emerged victorious, not through strength or intimidation, but through intelligence, observation, and teamwork. Alara returned to her console, once more running minor checks and adjustments. She paused, glancing at the glowing panels, the hum of machines, and the quiet dedication of her crew. Machines were honest, and they had revealed the truth. Humans had a brilliance that could not be ignored, a resilience that could not be suppressed, and a potential that would change the galaxy. The inspection had ended, but the legacy of what humans had shown would last far longer. For the Dominion, for other species, and for humanity itself, the message was clear. Humans were not to be underestimated. They were innovators, problem solvers, and creators of their own destiny, and this was only the beginning. The station settled into calm operation once again. The alarms were silent, the panels glowed steadily, and the crew continued their work. Outside, stars moved slowly across the black sky of space, silent witnesses to the quiet triumph of human ingenuity. And at the center of it all, Alara smiled faintly. The galaxy might still doubt humans. It might still test them. But one thing was certain: humanity had already begun to leave its mark.